Okay, testing of the microphone is occurring at this time. And if there are no problems with what we are seeing in the waveforms, and they do seem to be regular and strong. So we are prepared to begin, and in fact, will do so at this time. Welcome back to the Inner Voices podcast. Today's podcast features the perfectionist, and that is me. Now, before we proceed any further with the taping of this show, I would like to come to some mutual agreement on the purpose of this podcast, and more specifically, this particular episode. And that is that we are all, in our own ways and in our own spheres of influence and existence, are trying to get it right. Can we all please just try to agree now that we are all here to get it right? Now, of course, there are realms in which we cannot get it right. For example, I imagine some of you hear a very loud airborne noise that I attribute, I believe, with a helicopter. That would not be happening right now were this entirely in my control, but unfortunately it is not. What pilots and police officers choose to do in their time is outside of my control. What is inside of my control is what I say and do right now. And that, dear listener, is the same for you. So let's all right now agree that we are going to try our very best in all things within our power to get it right. And I'm going to give you an opportunity to say that on your own right now. And what I hope just happened is that you said, get it right, after I left a space of silence after let's. If you did not, please rewind this episode and be sure to do that. Okay, let us get into the meat of this episode, if you will, where patrons of Kara Morgan have proposed questions to me, the perfectionist. Excuse me if you're not watching the video of this episode. I've just taken a sip of a tea. That is an Earl Grey tea. I want to keep the old whistle wet, as they say, and that is for your benefit as well as mine. Okay, I have received 5 questions from patrons of Kara Morgan, and it is my pleasure to answer them at this time. Let us proceed to the very first of the questions that have been asked of me. This question comes from patron Jared. The patron's name is Jared. Jared has asked me, the perfectionist, what's your morning routine? Jared, thank you so much for this question. It's an excellent question, and one that I actually wish people would ask me more, because if there's one thing that I've come to believe, and there's actually many things, but this is one of the foundational ones, that a day is determined by the readiness with which one begins it. The readiness and the vigor, the alacrity, and let's say also the discipline. There are many ways in which you could get up, as I'm sure many of you know. But what one should do is choose a routine, just as Jared has asked it, that in that question is an assumption that there is a routine. And dear listeners, many of you out there may not have a routine. I personally am aware of such people in my life who don't set an alarm clock. And no, it's not because they have an internal alarm clock which awakes them at the time they choose. No. They don't seem to care what time they get up. And even if they did set an alarm clock, they might not abide by it. This is not a way to live one's life. It's certainly not a way to get the maximum out of one's day. And above all, it is not getting it right, which we've all agreed is what we are trying to do. So the question, what is my morning routine? I'm very happy to walk you through it, and you're very welcome to adopt any aspect or all aspects of this routine. When I wake up, and it is to an alarm clock, because it's not that I don't trust that I have an internal alarm clock, but let's say that some additive to my day the day before were to upset that alarm clock, I might end up not getting it right and not getting up at the right moment at the next day. And that we're not taking chances with. That's one thing I want to say to all of you, is that we're not taking chances. Chances are life's way of rolling the dice. And there's already, as we've seen by the helicopter that occurred earlier, there's so many ways in which life is rolling dice at us. Why would we add any rolling of dice that we didn't have to? So set your alarm. Set your alarm for a time at which you can get up and maximize your day. My alarm is set for 7:45. I like to be out of bed by 7:50. I give myself a 5-minute buffer. And what do I do during that buffer? I'm going to tell you what I do. I sit up and I begin the process of making my bed, which I think is one of the most fundamental important things that a person could do it with one's day. And dear God, if you skip it, I just basically imagine all you're doing is one, robbing stores probably, or sitting around eating jelly beans, which basically amount to the same thing in my book. So yes, please make your bed. And the way I like to do it, and this is my own way of giving myself a little luxury first thing in the day. Don't think that you can't get it right and also have a good time doing it. I sit up in bed, still have the covers around me, and I sort of begin to make the bed while I'm still in it. So that means, if you're watching this video, I'm pulling the covers as taut as I can. Now, of course, I've kept the covers tucked in at the back of the bed overnight. I don't the least amount you can disturb the covers in the night, the less amount of time you need to spend on it in the morning. So I try to disturb the covers minimally during the sleep that I do allow myself. Now, I pull the covers taut. I straighten as much as I can within the bed. Of course, you can't do the full job. That would be that would be completely impossible. But you can get a head start on it. Okay, and that's what I do. So once I've got it as let's say neat and tucked and taut, neat, tucked, taut. All right, that's my morning sort of mantra. Neat, tucked, taut. Neat, tucked, taut. You can do anything if it's neat, tucked, taut. It's also a tongue twister. It gets your tongue kind of warmed up and flowing. Neat, tucked, taut. Neat, tucked, taut. There I've not said it correctly, and that's this is the first time I've not got something right on the podcast, and that's okay. I want you to realize the grace with which I allow myself to not get things right, because life will teach you that it is not possible to always get things right. But what is possible, wetting the whistle there, is to try to get things right. All right, you can always try to get things right. Now I'm just noticing the waveforms have gotten a little strong. I fear that some of the waveforms that have just entered your ears were a little stronger than they should have been. And for that, I do apologize. So that might be my second not getting of right on this podcast. And that's higher than I'd like it to be at this point, but let's move on. Neat, tucked, taut is how I start my day. I get out of bed, I complete the tucking and the making of the bed and pulling back of the curtains, and potentially, depending on the weather and the humidity, opening of a window to start to freshen the air. Air is a crucial part of a routine. We need air to be circulating, and we need it to be fresh, and we need, but not too fresh. If it's cold in the morning, we don't want any of that seeping in unduly. Now that we've got the curtains in our bed made, well, the next process is, of course, to splash of the cold water upon the face. The skin also follows the neat, tucked, and taut regimen. And that doesn't have to be expensive. It can be. It certainly might be for you. But I find a splashing of the cold water upon the face starts that process for the face. Now, the next thing is a scraping of the tongue. Now, that's new for you. What have you been doing with your life? Probably robbing stores, right? Listen, turn yourself in, and before you do your time, get yourself a tongue scraper. I'd show you now, but I'd have to get up and leave some dead air, and that would be not getting it right, and that's something I try my very best to not do. But basically, it's shaped like a horseshoe, and you simply poke your tongue out and scrape it down, and it removes any mucus or toxins that have been emitted by the tongue during your sleep, which of course they've done. It begins the freshening of the tongue, which is crucial. Some of you might be saying, this isn't what I signed up to listen to on this podcast, listening to the freshening of the tongue and removing of toxins from the tongue. But you've asked for my morning routine, and that's it. Having done that, it is, of course, time to hydrate. So I make my way to the kitchen, and I heat up some water, and I put on some lemon Sorry, excuse me. I put the water and heat it. I don't put on a lemon. What I do is I slice the lemon and I squeeze out the lemon into a glass. Uh, Whew, okay, I've just had my third thing that's not been right so far in the podcast. We are only, let's see. Okay, well, we're a bit into the podcast at this point. I think that's about par for what would normally happen. I need to calm down. That's what I need to do. I'm all worked up and I'm excited about this podcast. I'm excited to be talking to you. I'm excited to be answering your questions that you specifically asked me. I want to get it right desperately. Um, so, having had my warm lemon water, I am now prepared to begin my day, and that begins with a breakfast. Well, it's already begun. What am I saying? It's already begun back with the alarm. But let's say that the productive part of the day, in the sense of ingestion, is now about to begin. Um, and that, of course, begins with a healthy, fiber-rich and protein-dense breakfast with, of course, a hot tea, Earl Grey, ideally. And I'll spend some time actually right where you see me now, sitting at this desk. Of course, I've got a placemat set up, and any food that might, but probably won't, fall by the wayside falls onto the placemat, which I clean up. There's no debris or food particles, remnants that get scattered about this surface or this space. I would just like to reassure you. Of course, there's some very important and expensive technological equipment that could be harmed, but this isn't where it's positioned when I'm having the breakfast. I'd just like to make that clear. Um, and after the breakfast is had, then basically look out. Then we're getting into all sorts of things. There could be windows that need to be uh, scrubbed. There could be dust particles that I've noticed from the night before after I've done my last dusting of the day. I could have noticed that a cat has gone and sat in the bed, and there's a wrinkle. I'll get that as soon as the wrinkle appears. It's gone. Let's see what else. Papers organized. You wouldn't believe the amount of papers this house accumulates. Papers everywhere. They go into piles, and that's not in my control. What I can control is when I see the piles, I can do something about them. Anyway, we're outside of the morning routine because this could take me well into the afternoon. The papers and the cleaning and the straightening of wrinkles and the cleaning up of the dishes. I didn't mention that happens immediately. There is absolutely no downtime between the completion of a meal and the cleaning of the vessel. That's something that's very important to me, and that's something that I wish were more important to certainly the people that I live with. But you can't. One thing I've learned is you can't. Force people to find something important that they should, even if it's something that could drastically change their lives and certainly the lives of the people around them. You can't force them to value things that they really should value and that you indeed do value. And that's one of the primary frustrations of my life. Okay, Jared, thank you for your question. We're now going to move on to another question, and here it goes. Oh, so many questions for the hashtag perfectionist. Hashtag. That's fun. First, do you colorize your closet primarily by color, then style, parentheses, all yellows together, and within yellow tanks, small, small, large to small, and of course, solids before prints, or, and parentheses, or by style, then color. So all tank tops together, and within the tank tops, order by color and size. And this is a question from Jeanette, patron Jeanette. Jeanette, wow. I want to first kind of give a shout out to the patrons that have come forward and asked these questions, because I can already tell that these two patrons, Jared and Jeanette, so far, are going about their lives in the right way. Right? You're trying to get it right. Jared and Jeanette, I'm going to say something to you now. You may know, and if you don't, dear God help you, because it's going to be hard to hear. A lot of people out there in the world, they could be people very close to you in proximity, they would never think to ask the questions that you've just asked. And it's appalling. I don't know what else someone is trying to learn out of life if it's not this sort of genre of question. But I'm just here to tell you that they are not interested in knowing these sorts of things, and it boggles me beyond all boggling But you're on the right track, Jeanette and Jared. So are you, and so let's dive into this important question. Of course, I colorize my closet by color, of course. But of course, there's layers to the categorization, as you've already assumed, and couldn't be more accurate about. But since you've started with color, let's begin with color and kind of back our way out from there in terms of categories. Um, there's a lot of problems with a store like a Goodwill. Uh, and most of those problems have to do with the potential for uncleanliness, right? There could be. Listen, I've heard firsthand stories of stains and debris on clothes that have been purchased from a Goodwill. That's a problem. That's horribly terrifying, and that's a risk that again, the idea of rolling of a dice. You're rolling of a dice when you are going into a Goodwill, and and I'll say you're brave, and I don't take that lightly. If you see my eyes wandering around right now, it's because I've located a mosquito, and I'm frightened about it. But the one thing I will say about a Goodwill, and for this reason I do go into them frequently, and if you go into them, you know this. They organize by color. You've got your reds, you've got your golds, you've got your oranges, you've got your blues in all of your category of clothing. And I think it's a wonderfully and a powerful way to organize clothing. Now, yes, I absolutely organize by color, but Jeanette brings up a crucial question, which uh, is it first color and then style, or is it by style and then color? And Jeanette, you're correct. It is the second of the two. We begin by style. Okay, so I have, and again, going back to Goodwill, right? They do this as well. And it's something I admire incredibly and have adopted from them. Goodwill has all of your women's tank tops in one location, all of your women's shirts, regular sleeved shirts. They will then have sweaters. They will have your shorts, skirts. All of these are in different sections and then organized by color. And this, I think, is crucial for so many reasons. First of all, utility. You might wake up on a day and your routine may have guided you such as to feel that, oh, there were more wrinkles on that bed sooner than normal, and this might not be a good day for me. I'm going to need a stronger article of clothing. Now, for me, of course, this is always going to be a button down collared shirt with a sweater vest. And you may be surprised to find that there aren't as much color variation in my closet as there is in a Goodwill. Now, that's just me. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with color, but I find this to be a strong color choice that I can rely on. It packs a punch. The diamonds in this beautiful design are powerful. They're united in their. If you're not seeing the screen right now, God help you. You're going to want to see how strong the design on this sweater vest is. Incredibly powerful. The points, their interconnectedness, but independence as well. The harmony of the navy blues with the grays and the more gray blues is stunning. And then you'll notice, of course, that the buttons in my button-up shirt match the navy blue of the sweater vest. And when you find a combo that's so strong as what I'm describing here, you're going to want to stick with it. At least I do. But I allow that other people may have other clothing needs, even different aesthetic needs. But let's say your day begins, like I started out saying, uh, there are more wrinkles on the bed than there should have been by a certain time. Honestly, any more wrinkles on the bed during the entire day is not ideal. But again, we're not always in control of who might go sit on a bed, especially when there are animals in the house and people that behave like animals, right? We have to laugh, otherwise we'll cry. And that wouldn't be getting it right. So, yes, perhaps you might get to this point in your day and say, I need a stronger clothing type than I have on. I might need a sweatshirt. I never wear them, but, but people do. So you're going to want your sweatshirts in one place so that when you need that different article of clothing, you know where to get it. And then the color array is such that you can follow your instinct on what you need at that moment. Of course, for me, it's always going to be a navy blue or a gray or a gray or a white button up. And then, of course, when you're getting into the pants, that's a whole different area. I like a polyester brown pant. Okay, difficult to get stained. Of course, I would never be staining my own pants, but again, you don't have control about the items you might come into contact with a day. So yes, in answer to your question, Jeanette, I organize first by style and then interiorly within each of those categories by color, following the example of Goodwill, in only that and nothing else. Okay, next question. What shelf on the fridge do you place your yogurt? And of course, I'm assuming all products have the labels faced forward. And do you mix fruits in with veggies in your crisper drawers? This question also comes from Jeanette. Jeanette, thank you for having the courage to ask more than one question, because clearly a lot of other people didn't have the courage to ask the question, or they lacked the drive to do so, or the desire. And that, frankly, is reprehensible. So you're making up for them, and I appreciate it. I knew that this question was coming, and so I prepared a visual. Now, if you're not watching the video, again, God help you. But this is something I've made quite a while ago. Some of you may remember it. We made an episode, and I will link this in the description of this podcast episode. But I've struggled with the people that I live with, animals and human animals alike, but mostly human animals, actually, because the cats cannot get into the fridge. In terms of the organization that the refrigerator requires. And I do say requires. It's set up in certain ways. You have certain heights of shelving, okay, of door shelves and central shelving and drawers, as you've mentioned. And products are meant to go in certain places. It's not just one giant box that you throw products into. I'm sorry, but if that's how it was, then maybe I would see an excuse for the completely haphazard manner in which certain people put items in a refrigerator. But no, the manufacturers are on my side in this case, and I will hear no other argument. Now, unfortunately, we've come to the fourth thing that's been gotten wrong in this episode, and that is the timing of this. We are approaching the winter time of year, and the winter solstice is less than a month away, meaning that it's getting dark quite early. I began this podcast at a time not planning for the length this podcast could be, and again, not planning for the fact that the light would be fading. You probably noticed that the light, if you're watching the video, is fading, and for that, I'm extremely embarrassed and humiliated and horrified is certainly a word I would use. I'm turning on a light, and that's not ideal because now I've bumped the microphone. Oh, dear God. I'm going to try one more light to see if this all should have been done beforehand. Oh, that's too bright. Wow, we're up to like 6 or 7 things gotten wrong here. I'm going to apologize because that was preventable, and that's on me. All right, let's move on and try to let those go. So, if you're watching the video, and I hope you are at this point, you're going to see the various categories of the refrigerator and where things are meant to go. Now, the question was asked specifically about yogurt, okay? And it's a very good question because I know why you've asked it, Jeanette. It's a bit of a gray zone, okay? You have a lot of refrigerators have an egg department, okay? A place where you can actually put eggs. At least older ones did, and I missed that time because it was more efficient, right? You take your eggs out, you put them in the little divots where the eggs go when you need an egg. You don't have to open a box. You don't have to let cold air out of the fridge any longer than necessary. We're talking about energy here, and energy always must be conserved as much as possible. When you've got an additional vessel that needs to be opened, more cold air is running out, and that's too bad. But anyway, that would be a clear place that you should put your eggs. There's no longer a very clear place to put the eggs. I like to put the eggs above of where the cheese drawer is. Again, cheese drawer, dairy drawer. Sometimes they call it a dairy drawer. Do you put your yogurt into the dairy dairy drawer, or do you not? This depends a lot on the size of yogurt receptacle that you purchase. And I, again, going for efficiency, like the larger tubs. A larger tub is not going to fit into a dairy drawer. So you're going to put that, I would recommend, on the top shelf of the refrigerator section. Of course, not in the freezer, unless you're going out of town and want to freeze your yogurt, which you can do. And I do recommend, highly preferable to letting it rot or, yes, go bad. So if you're getting large yogurt tubs, which I do recommend, top of the refrigerator is ideal. If you're getting the small individuals, you could put those in the dairy drawer. That would be acceptable, depending on the amount of cheese that you have. Now, I like a lot of cheese. I try to keep the cheese drawer stocked. That's something that I enjoy eating quite a bit. Again, we talked about luxury earlier on. You can get things right and still have luxuries. I'd like to have cheese. I don't apologize for that, and I don't think I need to. Okay, but if you got a lot of cheese, you might not be able to fit your yogurt little small containers in there, and then you might just want to put them back up on that top shelf. I know you did not ask this, Jeanette, but please, can we separate the savory and the sweet condiments? Can we please try to not get that mixed up? This is going out to my own home, and I don't know if they even watch this podcast. Another very important thing about a refrigerator, ice cubes go in the left bottom part of the refrigerator. Please refill the ice cubes in your family's freezer. If you are taking ice cubes out of a freezer in a home in which you live and not refilling it, there is something seriously wrong with you. And I'm going to venture to say, I'm not even going to say you're running out and robbing stores. What you're probably doing is worse than that. You're probably going out to libraries and robbing libraries. I'm not even saying checking out books and coming back late with them. I'm saying you're probably going to the library and just stealing books. That's probably what's gotten to you, to this place in your life where you're going to be taking ice cubes out of the tray and not refilling it. If I seem angry, I am. Refill the ice tray. Oh no, I think I've just peaked the audio again. All right, we might be up to 9 or 10 things incorrect so far on this podcast. What can I say, Jeanette? You hit a hot button issue. Okay, there's more questions in this question. Do you mix fruits in with veggies in your crisper drawers? Oh, that's very funny. Man, I'm so emotional about a lot of these things. I'm turning down the volume on this mic, I think, because I think I'm peaking. This might be hard to listen to. I know that's a joke, Jeanette. I can tell that's a joke, and I loved it. Of course I do not do that. Of course I don't do that. There are very few fruits that I would ever put in a refrigerator, okay? Because fruits are by nature a little more, let's say, delicate. A fruit is really meant to be ripe for, depending on the fruit, of course, but some fruits, they have a very small window with them being ripe. And if you miss that, you're in big trouble. And the refrigerator can be a death sentence to finding that correct window. There are some fruits I will put in the fridge, especially once they've gotten very ripe. Currently, persimmons. If you get your pointy persimmons, as I call them, you're going to want, once they get soft, they're going to be absolutely delicious. You're going to want to get them in the fridge. Okay. But they're also delicate. I wouldn't just put them willy-nilly in a drawer. That's insane. I would not do that. And I don't do that. Guavas right now, when they get ripe, I'll put them in the fridge. What else am I missing that I will put in the fridge? Figs. I'm an immense fig fan. A fig fan. That's alliterative. Once figs start to get very ripe, I put them in the fridge, but you got to eat them soon because that means they're at their window. They have a very small window. Okay, I think, and then the question, of course, I'm assuming all products have the labels facing forward. Yes, of course. Labels. Of course, all the labels are facing forward. Oh my goodness. Jeanette, I think we'd be very good friends. I'd like to spend time with you. Okay, next question. How often do you go into your cupboards to ensure all your items have been rotated properly and check for used by dates? This question is from Jeanette again. Jeanette, I feel like we're already becoming friends. It's amazing how the right questions can help you see into a person's mind in a way that uh, makes you want to know that person and respect that person and realize actually that there are other people in the world who are worth knowing. Jeanette, thank you. Thank you for that wonderful question. How often do you go into your cupboards to ensure all your items have been rotated properly? And this is my answer to that. As often as you go into a cupboard, right? And that's pretty often. Some cupboards less frequently, but if we're talking about, and I think you are, dishes, that's going to be pretty frequently. And so as often as you go into a cupboard, how much time does it take to take the top plate off the plates and put it at the bottom? It takes 4 seconds. Okay, I've timed it. Same with the silverware drawer. And some of this can best be timed with putting the dishes away out of the dish drainer. Okay, I put a couple of forks into into the drawer. Now I take those top forks and I put them on the bottom. Okay, so that we don't have the same forks being used all the time. That means some of those forks are getting dusty. They're also getting lonely. I think that these forks potentially, we don't know, could be feeling a little sad that they're not getting used. Same with the plates, same with the cups. So anytime you go into a cupboard, rotate. Anytime you're putting a dish away, rotate. Now, as for check for used by dates, this is an excellent and incredibly important question. Excuse the slurp. I'm just so excited about the subject matter that we're diving into. This is just getting to the heart of things, a heart of I think of all that is. So let's begin with the cupboards themselves. Now, in my kitchen, I have my baking items above of the oven, high above. Okay, we're not talking right above it. That would not be good for heat and all that. We're talking a good 5 feet. No, we're talking about a 4-foot height to get to. They're pretty high, actually. I will keep I try not to buy doubles of baking items that I know that I'm not going to use within a correct span of time. That's your first secret. You don't want to do bulk if you're not consuming items at the pace at which they need to be used by. All right? That might be obvious. I think it's probably obvious to Jeanette, but maybe for some of you that'll be helpful. Now, so you start by keeping the ones, of course, that need to be used quicker nearer to the front. Now, this is an important thing that I do. Every item can enter into its red phase. That's what I call a red phase. And this is going to seem funny, but I have a system of putting tabs on items, and it's really currently the tabs I have aren't red; they're pink. So that's just a little inconsistency that I need to get red tabs, and I'm going to do that as soon as possible. But once they've got a pink tab on them, that means they need to be used within 30 days, and then that flags in my mind, I've got to be making something with this item in it, or else it could get put in the trash. And as we know, we don't like waste. We don't like it. We don't want it. We don't do it. And if we do it, we feel badly about ourselves. And that's unfortunate. That means that probably more cheese is going to be eaten. And there's a limit to the amount of cheese that one person should consume in a day. That's something I've learned time and time again. So basically, if I am going to have duplicates of a product, they're going to the fresher ones are going to go behind the ones that need to be used, and they're going to be color coded by the urgency with which they need to be used. If it's a green tab on a product, I've got at least 3 months in which to use it. Now, where this can get even more precarious and dicey is when we get back to the refrigerator. I do tab items in the refrigerator, and let's go to the sweet condiments. Often have a long shelf life, not as long as some people think they should have. I once saw a Hershey syrup bottle in a refrigerator the year in which this occurred was 2017. That Hershey syrup bottle was from 2003. And it was stated on the bottle that it should be used by 2005. 2 years is a long time to use a bottle of Hershey syrup. Listen, folks, if you're not going to be eating Hershey syrup, don't buy it. Okay, give it to a friend who would appreciate some Hershey syrup. Don't let it sit there and rot in your fridge and then have a guest at your house who might unawares take completely petrified. The fact also that it doesn't seem petrified is should be a red flag. There should be an absolute skull and crossbones on that Hershey syrup. But I will utilize a similar system on these sorts of products. I will put a green if I have over 3 months to use it. Blue means we're getting down to 2 months. Yellow is down to a month. And then, well, wait, pink. So it depends on the speed at which a thing goes bad. Pink is, we're getting into emergency category, and that thing needs to be used. And I'm sorry, if I need to make a chocolate covered cheese sandwich in order to use the thing up, I will do that. That's efficiency. That's a moral imperative, and that comes first. Jeanette, thank you so much for that question. I apologize for the vehemence with which I answered it, but I think you know that it's because I care deeply about it, and I greatly appreciate the question. Okay, this is the last question that we have for the day, and here it is. I'm assuming you never mix small paper clips in with large paper clips. Parentheses, and I personally see no use for small paper clips in the first place, end parentheses. But what about the micro and mini binder clips? Do you ever combine those? They are so similar in size it's difficult to tell the difference, but I don't like to mix them. This question comes from Jeanette. Jeanette, hey, what are you doing Friday? Just kidding. You don't know me, and that might seem weird to you. But I can tell that we'd have a lot to talk about, and I'd enjoy it. And if you do happen to be free, I'd love to I'd love to pick your brain. Wow, this paperclip question is incredible. Now here you can hear it. I think that's my drawer. That's my doodad drawer, I call it. Now, lest you think doodad means it's all jumbled up, you're wrong. But it's a drawer of things that aren't easily categorized in their entire own space. Of course, a closet is easily categorized by such. You have a whole closet of clothing, right? And then, of course, smaller categories within. The doodad drawer has a lot of things that are more difficult to combine. For example, we have my tabs for my food items. You also have a box of expired credit cards organized by color and date. And you will also find your paper clips in here. And boy, Jeanette, do I understand the issue with this question. The binder clips are in particular difficult because, well, let's just talk about the little things that fold down on them, right? Do you store them with them folded down, or do you store them with them folded out? Because they're bulkier with the, let me just find one so that we can know what I'm talking about. Although some of you aren't even watching this, so I don't know that any of this is going to make sense to you. And for that, you know, I blame you. I blame you because you could be watching the video for it. Wow, I'm ashamed to say I'm struggling to find a binder clip right now. That's at least number... Listen, I'm not going to do a visual on it. I think you all know what I'm talking about, right? You have a binder clip. You have to fold them down to pinch it open, and then they fold out so that they get longer and skinnier if you have them folded out, and they get bulkier if they're folded close. They don't stack easily. They don't, nest. So I do find that the mini binder and the micro binder clips to be problematic when it comes to storage. So what I find it best to do, and again, I would love to show you this, but I just at the moment am not able to, but I will find a receptacle. This is not a good one. This is primarily a tea. It's really only a tea vessel, but it could be a cup. It could be, you could, and this is an idea that I'm going to give you for free. If you do consume your yogurt in tubs, as I recommend, well, those tubs, it's questionable on whether or not they get recycled, right? I've spent lots of my time trying to understand exactly what plastic items will get recycled, and it's horrifying. Not as many as you think, and and the petroleum industry is out there scamming us into using oil for plastics because they make money on it, and our world is getting destroyed by it. Anyway, if you do have tubs and you're scared that they won't get recycled, cut them off, and you can put your doodads that are harder to organize into them. I'll put all my little mini binder clips into one of those and the micro ones in another, and they exist side by side. And if you have square ones, even better. You don't lose any space in the little in between zones of the round things. Okay, but you could, if you're using your tubs and they are round, you could stuff little rags in between that you use for cleaning at a moment's notice. Okay, uh, my word, we got into it today. Those were some incredible questions. Jeanette and Jared, I tip my figurative hat to you and just want to applaud you for how you're striving to get it right. What that means is there's a lot of things you're getting right, and probably more things than a lot of people in your lives. And for that, you can be proud. Okay. The rest of you who are listening, listen, it's never too late to ask me a question. Who knows? I might come on this podcast, depending on how this goes, how well it's received. And you can ask me questions and you can start to get things more right in your life. Again, coming back to we're circling around fully back to the beginning, where what we're trying to do is and what I hope just happened is that you all said in unison around the world, get it right. Whether or not you did, let's agree to do our best to get it right in our day-to-day lives. Listen, folks, I'm wishing you all a happy Thanksgiving. I know it already happened, but as I'm saying this, it hasn't happened yet, so I think it still counts. All right. Have a wonderful week, and please, please try to get it right. Okay? Please?